Today, I went downstairs to eat and found all the shops closed. Checking online, I saw that over 60% of Shanghai businesses have shut down for the Lunar New Year, double last year's rate. In 2023, less than 20% closed, but this year, it's 60%. That means 6 out of 10 shops have closed during what was once their most profitable season. Why? First, the post-pandemic economic downturn. Many businesses racked up debts during COVID and now struggle to afford the holiday season. Labor costs have jumped 30%, making it hard to even pay employees. Second, online platforms like Taobao and JD.com have taken away in-store customers, forcing many physical shops to shut down.
Chinese New Year is a traditional holiday in China when families reunite and celebrate together. But in today's bustling Shanghai, things look very different. Those staying in the city for the holiday have found that instead of the festive atmosphere they expected, the city feels empty and quiet. Whether in the city center or near residential areas, the streets are nearly deserted, with few cars, closed shops, and hardly any pedestrians. This year, the atmosphere before Chinese New Year in China felt especially eerie. It seemed like people weren't preparing for the biggest holiday of the year, but facing an economic downturn like they've never experienced before. In Shanghai, even lanterns were scarce, and the entire city felt like it was in decline. People who used to spend extravagantly have now stopped spending altogether, and some are worried about affording meals in the coming days.
Lunar New Year in Shanghai feels lifeless. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and the streets are empty. Beauty salons, restaurants, and game rooms are closed. The only open stores are pharmacies. What's happening to Shanghai? Overnight, people have stopped eating out, shopping, gathering, or even getting barbecue. The streets are deserted.
Today I'll show you what Shanghai's streets look like during the holiday. It's so empty that if you threw a stick, you wouldn't have to worry about hitting anyone. If you take the bus, you might end up having the whole bus to yourself. The roads are so deserted that you could probably put a bed in the middle of the street and sleep safely. As my colleague said, seeing a single person now feels like a rare sight. What's going on at Qingpu Wanda Plaza? It's so empty here. I've walked all the way to the corridor, and there's still no one around. In past years, this place was packed during Chinese New Year. Even finding a parking spot meant waiting in line. That's why I took the bus this year. But look, there's barely anyone here. Is the economy really this bad? On January 29th, a TikToker named Yi Shi posted a video showing Wanda Plaza in Shanghai's Qingpu district on the first day of the Lunar New Year. The place, once bustling with crowds, is now eerily empty, with none of the usual holiday liveliness.
I've never seen Shanghai this quiet for the Lunar New Year. To my fellow workers from out of town, please, buy your tickets and go back home. The streets, markets, and roads are empty. Some might enjoy the peace for now, but in the long run, we're all going to struggle. Last year, mall and market vendors barely got by, and we all know it.
During Chinese New Year, the atmosphere is usually full of joy and celebration. However, a person who recently returned to China visited a commercial center in Shanghai and later posted on X, saying that the city felt extremely desolate. He described the scene in 4 words, too miserable to witness. The massive commercial complex, covering hundreds of thousands of square meters, was almost entirely empty. In the middle of the day, a large Yonghui supermarket spanning over 10,000 square meters had only one cashier working. The escalator to the basement level wasn't even running, meaning people had to take the stairs. Along a 1-kilometer stretch of storefronts, about 80% were vacant, with hardly any first- or second-tier brands left. The businesses that remained felt outdated and uninspiring, and the leasing situation was in complete disarray. He concluded, "This is reality. The economy is collapsing." A local in Shanghai responded, saying that the city now feels like an empty shell. Even simple breakfast items like sesame rolls and soy milk are hard to find. He said, "This isn't just an economic slowdown anymore. People are struggling to survive." The job market in Shanghai is also facing severe challenges. Employment opportunities are shrinking, high-paying jobs have drastically decreased, and many industries have seen significant income reductions. Even those working at major landmark companies are earning far less than expected. Finding a job in Shanghai is unbelievably hard. There are more graduates from top 985 and 211 universities than there are trash cans. There's a saying that March and April are the golden hiring season, so I took the opportunity after the holidays to send out 200 to 300 applications. But I quickly realized how tough it is. There are university graduates everywhere, and each job opening has dozens, sometimes hundreds of applicants. That's why companies keep raising their hiring standards. A front desk receptionist position that pays just 6,000 yuan now requires good looks, a great personality, a bachelor's degree, and fluent English. Are they hiring a receptionist or a business executive? Lately, I've been thinking about working at a foreign company since everyone online praises them. But after submitting so many applications, I haven't heard anything back. Then I checked job listings and saw that even a store clerk position at Muji only pays around 5,000 to 6,000 yuan. How does anyone survive in Shanghai on that? I've been stressing so much about finding a high-paying job that I can't even eat properly. With an uncertain job market, consumer spending has noticeably declined, and the high-end dining industry in Shanghai is struggling. As one of China's most developed markets for upscale dining, Shanghai used to attract many globally renowned restaurants. But now, the downturn in high-end dining is becoming more apparent. Throughout 2024, reports of restaurant closures have surfaced frequently, with nearly 1,000 upscale restaurants shutting down in just 1 year. Taiwanese dim sum chain Din Tai Fung has exited mainland China. Many well-known restaurants have closed, and even Michelin-rated establishments have been forced out. A trendy restaurant, People 6, which had thrived in Shanghai for 20 years, was also unable to escape closure. Some economists argue that what's being called middle-class consumption downgrade is simply the bursting of a bubble created by businesses, pushing consumers toward more cost-effective choices. The decline of upscale restaurants is particularly significant since they serve as key venues for business networking and corporate events. Their downfall signals a slowdown in business activities. With shrinking assets among the middle class, mortgage payments and high living costs have further squeezed disposable incomes. More and more people are adopting a practical and frugal mindset, ushering a widespread shift in spending habits that affects everything from food to housing and transportation.
Shanghai's middle class is cutting back, and it's obvious. First, Will's Fitness shut down, a gym chain for the upper middle class. As the economy worsened, fewer people could afford personal training, the gym's main source of profit. Now they can't even pay rent. Second, some high-end postpartum care centers have also closed. These were once a luxury, but now even middle-class families can't afford them. Finally, international schools in Shanghai have lost students. Middle-class families once prioritized elite education, but last year, many transferred their kids to public schools. With incomes down, expensive tuition is no longer an option.
When consumer confidence and income expectations decline, it triggers a chain reaction. The trend of reduced spending is expected to continue throughout 2025, significantly impacting Shanghai's real estate market. The biggest real estate bubble in Shanghai has finally burst. Luxury home prices are now in a full-scale decline. At Greentown Huangpu prices have dropped to 120,000 yuan per square meter, and at Lakeville Lux, they're down to 130,000 yuan per square meter. But this is just the beginning. More and more people will soon realize that prices for second-hand luxury homes in Shanghai are heading towards 100,000 yuan per square meter. Right now, the prices of these properties simply doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, a reasonable valuation for Xintiandi should be between 100 and 130,000 yuan per square meter. For Xuhui Riverside, around 100,000, Qiantan, about 80,000, and Lujiazui, roughly 100,000 yuan. The bubble is huge. I've been saying this. 2024 was a high-risk year for luxury properties. The wealthy have already left, and luxury homes are not a necessity. Take Greentown Huangpu as an example. Even at 120,000 yuan per square meter, units aren't selling, meaning the market still doesn't accept these prices. There's still room for further drops. Recently, a real estate agency exposed the real situation in Shanghai's housing market. Luxury home prices are plummeting. Back in 2015, new apartments at Greentown Huangpu near the Bund were priced at an astonishing 380,000 yuan per square meter, setting a record for Shanghai's apartment prices at the time. Shanghai's property market was once a magnet for the wealthy and outside investors, but now panic selling has taken over. Many homeowners, especially those from outside Shanghai, Shanghai are rushing to offload properties at lower prices. Some wealthy individuals are liquidating their assets and exiting the market altogether. The city's commercial environment has also taken a hit. Once thriving due to high foot traffic and strong consumer spending, Shanghai's business districts now look completely different. Shijiahui, once packed with people, is nearly empty by 6 p.m. Subway station retail spaces, which were once highly sought after, are now struggling to find tenants even at reduced prices. The mass departure of foreign companies has further weakened Shanghai's economic vitality. As foreign investments decline, they take away high-paying jobs and disrupt related industries, dealing yet another blow to the city's economy. The number of foreigners in Shanghai has noticeably dropped. A once bustling area known as Foreigner Street now looks deserted. The shrinking expat community reflects both the withdrawal of foreign capital and the city's declining international appeal. Meanwhile, the vacancy rate for top-grade office buildings in Shanghai continues to rise, rental prices are falling, and market competition is intensifying. While the city keeps adding new shopping centers, Shanghai already has 715 malls, and some are facing closure or declining foot traffic due to oversupply. A user shared online, "From what I personally know, some companies are taking out loans just to pay salaries. Some can't repay their loans and have already shut down. Others are cutting losses to survive." In Pudong, where I live and work, rents have been dropping throughout 2024. This means that fewer people are renting, meaning fewer people are employed. I've seen many office buildings that used to be brightly lit, but starting in January 2025, they've gone completely dark. On January 22nd, real estate firm JLL released a report stating that by the end of 2024, the average vacancy rate for high-end office buildings in Shanghai had reached 22%. In Puxi, both central and non-central business districts had vacancy rates surpassing those in Pudong. The situation is even worse in secondary business districts. For example, North Bund has a staggering 55.7% vacancy rate, while Suho 1's vacancy rate stands at 43.1%. Due to the supply-demand imbalance, office rents in Shanghai declined in 2024. Rents fell across core business areas, expansion zones, and emerging districts. In the fourth quarter of 2024, the average rent for top-grade office spaces in Shanghai dropped 1.2% quarter-over-quarter, reaching 6.5 yuan per square meter per day, continuing its downward trend. Even on bustling West Nanjing Road, rental prices have fallen below 10 yuan per square meter per day. Compared to the fourth quarter of 2023, when rents on West Nanjing Road were 11.19 yuan per square meter per day, they have now dropped by 1.4 yuan in just 1 year. And it's not just West Nanjing Road. Prime locations like Lujiazui, The Bund, and Xintiandi have all seen price declines. Shanghai's residential rental market in 2024 has also taken a major hit. Data shows that rental prices have fallen back to levels last seen 8 years ago, roughly on par with 2015 to 2017. A quick search on Xiaohongshu reveals numerous first-hand accounts confirming that rents are indeed dropping. For apartments under 5,000 yuan per month, rental prices have generally fallen by 200 to 500 yuan, and some landlords are even offering 1 month of free rent as an incentive for lease renewals. Ultimately, rent is a form of consumption, and rental prices are directly tied to workers' income levels. As people earn less or become more cautious about spending on housing, rents inevitably decline. This shrinking demand is also closely linked to Shanghai's declining permanent population in recent years. The city's population has dropped from 26 million to around 20 million, meaning approximately 5 million non-local residents have left. This not only weakens consumer demand, but also deals a heavy blow to the labor market and real estate sector. For decades, Shanghai has been China's economic leader, attracting foreign investment and boasting a highly developed financial services industry. However, with the restructuring of global supply chains and domestic economic adjustments, this model is facing serious challenges. As China's wealthiest city, Shanghai has long been seen as a key indicator of the country's economic health, but today's downturn reveals just a fraction of the broader economic deterioration. According to data from the Shanghai Bureau of Statistics, from January to November 2024, the total industrial output of large-scale enterprises in the city grew by only 0.3% year-over-year. This limited growth was mainly driven by government stimulus policies, such as subsidies for the auto industry. Meanwhile, industrial output from foreign-funded enterprises, as well as companies from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, remained in negative growth territory. Data from January to December 2024 shows that Shanghai registered 5,956 new foreign invested enterprises, a 1% decline from the previous year. More significantly, actual foreign investment usage totaled $17.7 billion, marking a sharp 26.6% drop year over year. This suggests that Shanghai's industrial economy, particularly sectors reliant on foreign investment, is facing increasing pressure. On the consumption side, Shanghai's total retail sales of consumer goods from January to November 2024 amounted to 1.6 trillion yuan, reflecting a 3.1% year-over-year decline. The situation worsened in November, with total retail sales for the month falling to just 144 billion yuan, a steep 13.5% drop compared to the same period last year. The downward trend in consumer spending is clear. In short, consumption is declining, foreign investment is shrinking, and exports contribute little to Shanghai's GDP growth. Yet, despite these grim indicators, Shanghai's mayor recently announced in a New Year's address that the city's GDP grew by 5% in 2024, with its economic scale surpassing 5 trillion yuan. This so-called steady GDP growth has raised widespread skepticism. With declining wages and rising unemployment, people are tightening their belts just to get by. On one hand, consumption is collapsing. On the other, officials report a stable economic expansion, an increasingly difficult narrative to believe. Some scholars argue that Shanghai, as China's leading economic city, is revealing a concerning reality. The country is undergoing a deep structural economic crisis and is shifting toward long-term stagnation. From consumption and foreign investment to real estate and employment, Shanghai's struggles reflect the deeper contradictions within the national economy. This is not just a crisis for one city. It's a warning sign that China's economic model has reached a critical turning point.